All right, we'll make a start then. So, morning everyone, and welcome to the virtual licensing panel meeting. We will begin with a round of introductions. My name's Councillor Amanda Pinnock. I'm the chair of the panel. We'll move over to my colleague, Councillor Iredale.
I'm Councillor Iredale, member for the Gorka ward and part of this panel.
Thank you. Councillor Davies.
Hi, I'm Councillor Davis. I'm a member of the panel this morning and a member for Almondbury Ward.
Council's legal representative.
Good morning, my name's David Stickley. I'm a solicitor. I work for the council. I'm here to give any legal advice to the panel that they may require of me.
The licensing officer.
Good morning, Chair. Anwar Butt, licensing officer, delivering the report today.
Thank you. The applicant, Mr. Broadbent. Mr. Broadbent, are you with us?
Hello?
Hello. Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Chris Broadbent, working for Three Fiends.
Thank you. And we have a number of objectors. So we have Mrs. Fowden. Are you with us? Mrs. Are you with us? Jane Fowden?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Mrs. Nicholson? Mr. Nicholson? Mr. and Mrs. Nicholson, are you with us? Okay, and we'll move on to.
Oh, can
hello.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello, is that Mrs. Nicholson?
Yes. This is Mr. Nicholson. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Mrs. Nicholson, are you with us?
Yes.
Lovely. And is it Miss Young Davies? Are you with us as well? Carol Young Davies? Okay, so we'll move on to the agenda items. Just to confirm that this meeting is being webcast and recorded for everybody's benefit. So we'll move on to the agenda items. So minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 31st of March. I was the only one at that meeting by the looks of things, so I can confirm that's a true record. Anything of interest to declare? Councillor Iredale?
No, not this time.
Councillor Davies?
No, not for me.
Thank you. Admissions of the public. This is being webcast. Any deputations or petitions?
None received, Chair.
Thank you. So we'll move straight into the application then, as to why we're here today. So it's an application for grant of a premises licence in respect of the Three Fiends, situated at Brookfield Farm, 148 Millmoor Road, Meltham, Home Fair. So can I begin by asking the licensing officer, please, to outline the application?
Good morning, Chair. Thank you very much. I'm ready. So as you say correctly, this is a grant of a licence for the Three Fiends, as already mentioned. The applicant submitted an application on the 3rd of March this year. Licensing department received that, and the application is attached to Appendix A of the pack that everybody has. I'll mention, and it's also a reference in the report, that the Three Fiends already benefit from a premises licence. That was granted on the 28th of August 2015. That is just for off sales, and it serves the hours of 8 till 2200 hours, Monday to Sunday. That is attached to Appendix B to the pack that everybody has. This application is also a grant of a premises licence, and just for clarity purposes, the reason that it's a grant rather than a variation is just due to the size of the licensable area. So the Licensing Act specifies whether it should be a variation or a grant. In this case, it's a new grant because of the increased size of the licensable area. Excuse me. So this application applies for two licensable activities. One is films, and the hours are 12 while 2300 hours, Friday to Monday. and then consumption of alcohol on and off the premises, Friday to Monday 9 AM for 2300 hours, and then Tuesday through to Thursday 9 AM to 1700 hours. So that's the new application that's gone in. Consultation has taken place. There's been no representations from the responsible authorities. However, there is a point that I need to refer to in relation to the planning side of things. I think I'll go in more detail at section 4, where it goes into consultees and their opinions. But just for the benefit of this outline, we have had 4 members of the public, which are residents, that have expressed concerns. They contacted us for further information. Of the 4, only 3 have made written representations expressing concerns on the licensing objectives, and they cover all 4 of the licensing objectives. So they are all appended to this report, and they cover the public safety, prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. In addition to what's already been outlined here, it's fair to report to the panel and to members here that during the course of the existing licence, the premises have applied for 4 temporary events during the course of the past 12 months, of which 3 of those have run without problem. 1 of them was cancelled due to the local lockdown situation and the current pandemic. That was of nobody's fault. The representations are attached to Appendix C. I'll come on to planning in a moment when we go to section 4. That there was an issue with the planning with this, but I will go into more detail in section 4 on that. Section 2.2 gives regard to the licensing panel, the licensing policy, and the Secretary of State's guidance. These obviously being the points of reference that we give to this report and to decision making. Relevant information is contained in the report and at Appendix D as well. Thank you for that. So, other matters. In determining the application, members should have regard to the licensing policy and the Secretary of State's guidance, as I've already alluded to. The applicant or any other person who has made relevant representations has the right of appeal, which I'm sure legal will confirm that as well at the end. Now, in regard to consultees and their opinions, as I've already said, everybody has been consulted on this application. However, this application itself is a little bit unusual in that the planning authority vests with the Peak District National Park, and that is due to the rural location of the 3 Feens. This is something that has caused a little bit of confusion in terms of the communication of the application, and I clarify by saying it had come to our attention that the Peak District didn't actually get a copy of this application immediately. However, as the officer, when it came to my attention, I've done my utmost to make sure that they've seen the application and that they've had time to consider it. Because of that, what I've just pointed out, there was an opportunity given that we might re-advertise the application to make sure that we'd follow due process. I have liaised directly with the planning manager, John Keeley at the Peak District. He's seen the application, he's given it due consideration, and for the present moment, his opinion is that he doesn't want to halt this hearing. He's aware that representations are in. He doesn't have any comments as far as the licensing side of things are concerned. However, he has advised that planning is not in existence, so there's no planning permission. I do feel that it's important to draw the distinction now between planning and licensing. I appreciate, panel, that you will be aware of the distinction, but for the benefit of all concerned, I have had some detailed discussions with those that have made representations on email and on voice conversations, but for the panel's purposes and just to see that we're following due process, I'd like to just make that distinction. So, as we all will probably know, it's in the regulations and it's in the legislation and guidance that both planning and licensing are both separate entities. For the purpose of this hearing, and notwithstanding that planning isn't important, of course it is, we will not consider planning, and even though there is no planning, that does not discount that planning will be gained, and if planning is refused, that there will be a right of appeal with the planning consultation. And concerns that have been brought by residents, some of them do seem to be planning related, they will be considered and given due consideration during the planning application. Planning will contact, and if they may have done already, contact the applicant about the planning application, need to get that regularised. If there's any questions on that, I'll do my best to answer them. It had also been mentioned that obviously planning hadn't been given consideration, that highways, the Environment Agency hadn't been considered. They wouldn't be considered because they're not part of the licensing consultation. They will be considered as consultees when the planning consultation takes effect. So just to draw the distinction and to draw that line, this is for the licensing aspect. We shouldn't refuse the application just because of planning. However, if it's granted today with or without conditions, planning does need to be satisfied. Once that's regularised, they can trade, and any planning restrictions would have to be adhered to, but planning enforcement would take care of that. I hope that's okay, Jay. With regard to section 5 of the report, the next steps and the timelines, in determining the application, members will have regard to the representations as referred to, and may take necessary steps as appropriate to promote the licensing objectives. The steps being the application can be granted, the application can be granted with appropriate conditions, the application can exclude from the scope of the license any of the licensable activities which relate to this application, or the application could be rejected. Findings on any issues should be on the balance of probability, and in arriving at a decision, members should have regard to the relevant provisions and the statutory guidance which has already been referred to and is appended to this report. That concludes my outline of the report, Chair, and I will refer back to yourselves to determine the application.
I'm grateful for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Butt. So have my colleagues got any questions? Councillor Iredale?
Not at this stage, thank you.
Councillor Davies?
Not at this stage.
Thank you. So I think it's important to pause at this stage just to say, for my own purposes, my own clarification, that I feel that after considering the papers and reading the information provided by the objectors, it may be that we need a site visit so that we can fully understand and put in context what the objectors have said. They provide a lot of detail, but it's not my decision, it's the decision of the panel. So I think at this stage I'd like to retire to allow myself and my colleagues to discuss whether a site visit would be appropriate or whether we can progress with the hearing today. So if we can just break for a little while so that we can have that discussion and then come back into the main meeting and say what our decision is. Okay?
Councillor Pinnock, I can automatically
Thank you everyone for your patience. So myself and my colleagues have had an opportunity to discuss whether a site visit is appropriate in the interest of fairness and justice, and we've decided that it is, simply because the information that's been provided by the objectors is very detailed, and it's important for us to put into context that information and of course understand the closeness of proximity to residential areas and other information that's been provided. So a site visit will be arranged. We will have an opportunity obviously to see how things may run if the decision is made, and we'll take it from there. So in due course, I think my colleagues will contact everybody and put that arrangement in place. So thank you everyone for attending, and I will close the meeting.